Jan Ozer here. I'm chatting today with Steve Strong, co-founder and director of Ideas. We'll be discussing the suitability of Ideas product Norsk for broadcast markets. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Jan, good to be here.
So let's jump right in. When you say broadcast, what type of customers are you describing?
Literally broadcasters, exactly the sort of people you guys would think about when you hear the term. Very much tier one, very much those that are delivering premium content to their viewers, especially if they're looking to monetize it. Norsk is a very good fit for live. And there's a really good fit if there's a progression from traditional sort of broadband type broadcast over to IP. There's a very good fit for IP just there.
How are they doing this now, and what are the pain points that they're experiencing?
Sure. So various customers that we've dealt with in the past, a lot of their systems tend to be appliance-based. So you're chaining together various appliances, tend to be relatively single-purpose boxes, and for those purposes, they do a good job. I'm not going to criticize them. But once you start building up a big workflow, you tend to start getting potentially quite a chain of these things.
So when you say chain, you mean a production system, a transcoding system, a packaging system, that kind of thing?
Exactly that sort of thing. Exactly that sort of thing.
Okay. What other pain points are they experiencing beyond the
So that
latency?
gives you just going down that path gives you a bunch of things straight away. You've got big capex costs. You've got a whole bunch of boxes they need buying. You are limited to the functionality that those boxes offer. Sometimes that's not a problem. Depends on the function.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is. You have issues with flexibility. Some of those boxes will let you be very dynamic in how you interact with them. Others, it's very much configure them, hit go, and that's it. You step back, and that's all you can do. As soon as you've got a chain of things, your latency starts going up. We've had customers that have experienced latency in the order of seconds from the entry point into their workflow to the exit point. So you're literally 4 or 5 seconds because your latency is dictated by the sum of all the individual latencies of the boxes you're going through. So even though your hardest task, probably your transcode, if you're running a bunch of B frames or something, but it's probably sub-second, but you're having to incur the cost of everything summed together as opposed to the single cost of your single most expensive step. Scaling is hard. If you are in an appliance-based world and you want to scale, you need to buy more appliances. That's pretty much your only option. So scaling out to the cloud's difficult. And if one or two of your box vendors give you scalability up to the cloud, that's no good unless all of them do. And unless when you scale to the cloud, all of those individual systems still interoperate properly, which they invariably won't.
So looking at Norsk, what are the broadcast level features that can be included in a Norsk workflow?
So Norsk is really rich. There's a lot of functionality in Norsk. It's all set in the doc, so I'm not going to go and read the whole lot. But certain things that would spring out to broadcasters, things like SCUDI35 management, so both processing of inbound SCUDI35 markers and injecting outbound markers to manage your whole ad insertion and monetization process. DRM, that's an important thing. KLV metadata, that's something you rarely see available, but for where you've got streams coming in, particularly in sports, motor racing, that sort of thing, you may well want to do some metadata enhancement out on the client end, and we can pass all that stuff through. HDR metadata, closed captioning, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay. Can you demo SCUDI35 and the flexibility that you've built into your SCUDI35 feature set?
Okay, what I'm going to do here is very much for the techies amongst you, so I'm going to share the screen. Right, so yeah, SCUDI35. We've got a really nice demo we're building right now, but what I'm actually going to show you is some code. So this is for the techies amongst you. Don't glaze over. There'll be another bit of demo I'll show you in a bit that doesn't look anything like so scary. But for the techies amongst you, this might trigger your interest. So this is a piece of Norse code. This is code that you guys would write, you guys would own. This is in TypeScript, but you can use essentially any language. And this is pretty simple stuff. We're creating an RTMP server just here. We're setting up a bunch of CMAC outputs here. So a little bit of config to do part duration, segment duration, that sort of thing. We are subscribing those together. So we're joining the dots. And that's it. That would run, that would take in this case, an RTMP input, and it would output it to CMAF. Down here is where it gets interesting. And this is something that you'd never want to do, but for the techies amongst you, you hopefully will get the idea, is that we're going to go and grab a scheduled date to be 10 seconds in the future, and we're going to go and throw an add marker in. And the add marker, this particular one's a insert command. You get to choose your break duration, your program IDs, all the rest of the stuff. You can see it all sat there. And you just go throw that at your output, and that's it. That on its own, useless. Who'd want that? But if you start imagining the flexibility you've got, that's all your own code. You can have that add marker and its insertion triggered on events that are happening in the source, events that are happening in your database systems, in your eventing systems, through integration with your ad subsystems from other third parties. We don't manage the ads ourselves, but we can certainly integrate with those. You suddenly get massive flexibility. And as your ad partner comes up with new functions that they can offer, you get the ability to control how that flows into your workflow, which in a way with a appliance-based model, you're very much restricted to what they're going to let you do. If you watch this video before NAB, come see us at the NAB stand because we're going to have a very shiny demo of this available there.
Well, another feature that's getting pretty hot in the broadcast space is transcription. What are Norsk options there, and how would you add transcription to a workflow?
So yeah, transcription, big deal. The world of AI has come on in leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, and the AI-based transcription systems are really getting to the sort of quality that they're entirely great for what people need to do. So we've got 3 plugged into Norsk today. 2 of them are cloud-based, and 1 of them is local compute-based. The 2 cloud-based ones are talking to AWS and Azure, so the respective transcription services that those companies offer. So if you are an AWS or Azure customer, or there's particular features within those systems that work for you guys, then that's great. They will work with Norsk straight out the box. In an offline world, we also integrate with Whisper, the transcription from OpenAI. So that's also really good. The price point is very compelling. Plus, you don't need internet access to run it, which for some of our customers, that's an important deal because their workflows don't run in places that are internet enabled. And I can certainly show you a very, very quick demo of Whisper running if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, let's take a look.
So what we're looking at here is Norsk Studio. So where we were looking at the Scudi 35, we were looking at SDK code, which is code you have to write, and it's a low-code SDK, so you spend vast majority of your time focusing on your business problem and not too much focusing on the media. Norsk Studio takes it up yet another layer to the point where you essentially are writing no code at all, and it's very drag and drop. So what I'm going to build here is a really, really quick Whisper demo. I'm going to drag in an RTMP input. I'm going to say that we're called Norsk, and that's going to sit there. I'm then going to drag in a Whisper transcriber node, and I'm just going to tell it that the language is English, and I already have a model /bin. And then I'm going to add on a CMAF output. Now that on its own really wouldn't do anything at all because nothing's wired up, but I'm going to wire it up. I'm going to drag the RTMP data into the Whisper, and I'm also going to drag it into the CMAF. And Studio knows what types of data everything needs, so I don't need to tell it anything. I'm going to drag the output of the Whisper transcribe, which is a bunch of subtitles, and also throw that into the CMAF. That's it. And then I hit play. Studio wakes up, everything comes online, and it says none of these nodes have got any data. So it's highlighting them all in orange, saying there's a potential error situation here. So I'm going to hop over to my console here and just fire in an FFmpeg. So I've got some data coming in. And we can see that RTMP and CMAF lit up straight away. The Whisper transcribe lit up once it had enough for its first segment to start talking to Whisper. And the workflow's running. It's all happy. So if I go pick up this URL here and go over to Safari here and paste that in, life is so sad. So yeah, I go over to Safari, I paste in that URL, and I've got the CMAF playing, and we can see the subs. I'm
Very
guessing
nice.
you guys can't hear the audio, and I'm going to turn it off at my end because it's really annoying. But that's doing a pretty damn good job of the transcription there. I've sat and watched many a live broadcast TV where the subs are nothing like that good.
What's the hardware you're running that on? I know AI doesn't run very effectively on normal computers. Is that some kind of GPU or some kind of ARM-based computer?
So that one I was just running locally is something that people running Norsk in the field can't do because that was me running on a Mac, and Norsk does run on a Mac, but in its delivered mode, it's running inside a Docker container on a Mac. So on my local Mac, it was hitting my Apple Neural Engine, which is lovely. But if you were deploying in the field, you're obviously going to be running on some sort of server, and the Whisper engine we're running will happily run on top of NVIDIA CUDA GPUs. So you can plug an NVIDIA in, offload that onto the NVIDIA card to keep your CPU free for other things.
So we've covered most of this, but let's summarize. Why would you choose Norsk and build an application with Norsk as opposed to other off-the-shelf appliances?
I think one of the key bits is flexibility. So Norsk has a lot of function out the box, and that's function that's increasing almost on a daily basis, it feels. And you can get to that through both the low-code SDK and increasingly through the no-code studio. And it gives you massive flexibility as to what you want to do. So you're not locked into designing your workflow up front, buying a whole bunch of tin to run that workflow, and then sitting back and in 6 months going, I wish we could do X because we've got this new customer requirement, but unfortunately the boxes we've chosen and the way we're wiring them together means we can't do that. And we're going to have to wait for our next refresh cycle, which could be 3-4 years away. Norse gives you that flexibility. You're not locked into that sort of stuff. It becomes very malleable to change your mind as to how you want your workflow to run. It becomes very easy to change it in your dev stack and run tests and run A/B testing with your customers, prototype stuff. That all becomes super, super simple. Your ability to scale out to the cloud. Norse will happily run on cloud, happily run on-prem. That's a big win. So particularly if you've got spiky workloads, I think if you're running 24/7 type infrastructure, having a local tin makes a lot of sense. Cloud isn't the cheapest way of delivering things. But as soon as you've got any level of spikiness, then being able to scale those spikes out to the cloud so that you're only having to run your day-to-day stuff locally, that's a real big win. You're on a single server. Instead of these big chains that we described earlier, you can get it down to one box. So things like latency, you're now down to your slowest step as opposed to the sum of all your steps. Say if this particular customer I was talking about were on sort of 5-6 seconds end to end, and we went down to less than one, and they had the same function as they had before. Along with that, you're getting better density in your rack space and stuff like that. So if server rooms are crowded things, your IT team will be very happy if you can free up room in their racks because they're pretty much in demand.
And that's lower cost, lower power cost, lower.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Lower capex, absolutely. Lower power, almost certainly. Obviously, you're still doing some of the work. It's not free, but there's a lot of redundancy you have when you go down the multiple appliance route, which you get to save on all of that stuff. Your flexibility around the hardware is great. Norsk runs on commodity hardware. You buy a regular server. If in 6 months' time you want to plug in some AI system and that would need an NVIDIA card or some other AI accelerator, it's just a regular server. You can just go get that stuff, plug it in, off you go. With an appliance-based model, those tend to be very much more locked down. You don't have those choices.
Okay. Most of the customers that you talked about before are probably running on appliance-based systems. What do you tell them are the key reasons they might want to consider retiring those early and moving to a Norsk-based system?
Oh, clearly just because it's better.
Besides that.
More seriously, to a degree, if what they've got does what they need to do, then don't change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the reality is the vast majority of people, that's not the case. They have what they've got, and typically the people we speak to, they're frustrated because they want to do more stuff, and they can't because they're tied into their current system. So I would use Norsk as the opportunity to start doing that new stuff, even if you run a sort of A/B chain for a while. Keep running your traditional stuff. If it's working, you can leave it running and start offering new services through a secondary chain and gradually migrate things over. That's a great way. That's a great way forward. That lets you touch and feel it on a fairly low risk basis. You're not having to throw all the toys out the pram straight away, and you gradually migrate stuff over. I think you'll find the experience to be a good one.
Okay. I mean, there's been so much advancement between AI, which is everywhere, and even ASIC-based transcoding.
Yep.
The scalability you get in some of these newer systems is just far and away better, which is going to save a lot of companies operating expense in spades, going forward.
Yeah. Okay. We've not mentioned the ASIC stuff, but we're running on NetInt hardware, we're running on AMD hardware, we can run on NVIDIA hardware. So again, from a transcoding perspective, just that single bit of the workflow, we can offer massive more density than you're probably getting today. Our little ARM server in our lab has got a pair of quadras in it, and recent tests we had 96 channels running through a single 2U server at 1080p. It's crazy.
That's impressive. So what's the pricing structure? It doesn't make economic sense until we know the economics.
It's simple. We like simple. So there's a free trial download. It's fully featured, so you can do anything you want. You can set up all your proof of concepts. The only restriction on the trial download is it's time limited. So you get 20 minutes, then it shuts itself down. You can immediately start it back up again. So you can, as developers, proof of concepting, showing stuff off to your management, showing stuff off to your customers. You can do anything you want to do. Once you take the leap and actually want to turn off that 20 minutes, it's a per channel model. So per concurrent channel, very much more favorable terms than other products on the market. We're running at $1,500 per concurrent channel, and there's a pricing matrix. The more channels you buy, cheaper it gets. Okay. That's per year, just to be clear.
All right. Thanks for clarifying. Listen, thanks for your time. That was great.
Cool. Cheers, Jan. We'll speak again soon.
Take care.